Don't talk to strangers. Watch your surroundings. And don't go off with anyone alone. We're at that point where we've been practically told these things our entire lives. And I feel as we get older, we tend to let our guard down and maybe even just get soft with it all. But what if right now I told you we have the highest number of enslaved people in human history? So let's talk about what nobody wants to talk about, human trafficking. According to the NPR, more than 50 million people are in slavery today. That's 3 times the amount during the transatlantic slave trade. So how is human trafficking defined? It's when men, women, and children are forced into services of sex and hard domestic labor against their will. The International Labor Organization notes that women and young girls make up 70% of this. In modern-day slavery victims, and 10 out of 50 million of them are children. So why doesn't it get talked about enough? It's because human trafficking is a hidden crime, where people tend to rarely come forward due to language barriers, not knowing or how to get help, or even just fear of their own traffickers. About 15 million out of the 50 million are stuck in forced marriages with no hope and no way to get out. So today, to bring awareness to some of these people's stories, I want to put faces to them. On the official FBI website in August of 2023, more than 200 victims of sex trafficking were rescued during a nationwide enforcement campaign called Operation Cross Country. That also included an identification or arrest of more than 6 suspected human traffickers and 126 individuals accused of child sexual exploitation or trafficking offenses. 59 of the victims were minors and 59 were reported missing for months. They encountered both child victims of sex and trafficking of adults who are being trafficked against their will. This right here is Elizabeth Frazier. At the age of 4, her earliest memories are her parents selling her for sex. She thought it was normal growing up, and she thought that's what it was to be loved by her parents. She was used to it. Her parents sold her for sex for many years. In 2009, around the age of 16, she tried to take her own life due to it. She got through it. She got a supportive family and friends, got the counseling she needed, and 20 years later, she started Hero Bands. Hero Bands is a nonprofit organization that helps human trafficking victims when they need their help. Another story. There's a 13-year-old girl selling nudes and her body for sex through social media apps. When she would get the guy's info, she would threaten to go to the cops about it if he didn't give her drugs, money, or gifts. All of a sudden, one day, she went to go do her normal thing, and she got kidnapped by a guy. She was taken across state lines and kept in a closet for months, until a couple months later, the cops arrested her, and she was locked in a closet. Now, I mean, that sounds like a scary story. Sounds like it came from like a movie or a horror movie. But no, what if I told you it happened right here in Ottawa County? With all that being said, being a young woman, I've had some experiences of my own. I mean, any of us could have. Not to the extent of the stories I just shared, but being a woman or a young woman can be scary at sometimes. I mean, imagine you're alone in the middle of the night at a gas station getting gas. You had to stop that night because you had to get gas when you could have stopped in the morning when it was safer. You know, this is just you and 3 other males. Every scenario runs through your head. Every scary one, every possibility just runs through your head. Now, this sounds like a horror movie or like something out of a horror movie, but a lot of us females feel this way. Next one. Walking home from school sounds innocent enough. And maybe it is with younger kids, but majority of abductions happen near or at bus stops. In fact, according to the National Center of Missing Children, 65% of abductions happen while young people are walking home from school. Now, I went to Mexico for spring break. You know, it was a blast. I had fun, sat in the sun all day. But my parents expressed to me before I went there, listen, you're going out of the country, you need to be safe, you need to watch your surroundings, you need to not go off by yourself alone. When we stayed on the resort, which was pretty Americanized, which it was fine, we were chilling. But as soon as we stepped off the resort, we went to go see the pyramids, which was beautiful, but there was just so much going on. And my dad looked at me and he goes, "This is the place where you need to be careful. You need to stay close, and you need to watch your surroundings." Now, we're not used to that much until it really comes down to it. Now, all the stories I've just shared, you might wonder how to help. There are many platforms or ways you can help with this. For example, be aware of your surroundings. Watch out for signs, such as if someone is timid, when someone speaks, it seems off-scripted or just not right, weak eye contact, stuff like that. If you see or suspect trafficking, there are many resources to reach out, like to local law enforcement, or even organizations such as the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children, or nationwide Operation Underground Railroad. Or there's even a human trafficking hotline number, 888-373-7888. The ways to get help if you're also a victim. The obvious one, calling 911 if you can. But also another common one is ordering a pizza, which some of you may or may not have heard, and I have examples for that today.
You called 911 to order pizza? Yeah. This is a wrong number to order pizza. No. I'm giving you know. Is that right, sir? Yeah. I don't know what pizza. Alright. Medical, you need medical? No. What medical? 30 seconds off before you get there. Call and order the pizza. And agree with everything I said. There's nothing wrong somewhere.
Now with that, that's an example if you are a victim. Another one is when you're in public, try to get help. Try to write down something, try to use the bathroom. For an example, a couple years ago there was a flight attendant. A flight attendant was nervous about this little girl on the flight. Like she had signs, she was nervous she was being trafficked. She told the little girl to use the restroom and wrote down a note. The little girl was only 14 years old and has been trafficked for 6 whole years in Europe. If it wasn't for that flight attendant, who knows what could have happened, but she didn't ignore those signs. Another sign, it's a universal hand symbol. Raise your hand and tuck your thumb into your palm and put your hand down. My purpose here today is not to scare anyone or get the grade. It's about making some of us aware and to bring awareness to this topic. It's a silent crime with many victims, and it doesn't matter your gender, your age, or your background. Anyone is vulnerable. There's no specific reason or meaning behind anything of this. It's important to be hypervigilant and aware of your surroundings. And don't let your guard down. And don't be naive to the signs. This can happen to you or anyone that you know. And in the words of our former U.S. Secretary of State, defeating human trafficking is the great moral calling of our time. Thanks for joining me here today for confronting it. Thank you.